Hi, I'm Tido. I'm a producer slash songwriter, and we're here in Kalasatama, Helsinki. One of my favorite productions is definitely Wait on Me, performed by Kai, which I co-produced with my friend Zay and co-wrote with my friends Jacob Aaron and Rachel West. In 2013, I got an engineer internship at a studio in Helsinki. The company CEO heard some of my beats and productions and suggested I do some co-write sessions. It kind of took off from there. In daily situations I'm in and co-write sessions, I feel like I'm responsible of the sonic picture of what the song is going to be. In a co-writing session, I typically try to get to the finish line as quick as possible. If it's something like maybe pitch, I might not worry about it too much in the moment and just take care of it later. But I do tend to record on a good microphone, a good setup, so the vocal actually sounds like a finished product. I kind of like the specific charm that bad recordings have. A lot of times if something is recorded on an iPhone, for example, it might kind of be harsh, and Soothe is pretty good for taming the harshness. And there's also a lot of like remiking plugins that I like to use to shape the tone into a different thing maybe. I have experimented a lot with Soothe to a point where sometimes I might even just leave Delta on and mess around with that, maybe duplicate the whole track and make that a whole different thing. I use Spiff pretty much on a daily basis, mostly on drums, maybe to tame or even add some transients on the drums. For example, hi-hat tracks, sometimes I take some transients off. Pretty typically, I would put a Spiff also after my drum bus. After squashing the drums, I like to bring back some of the transients. Bloom is one of my go-tos for synth tone shaping and actually backing vocal bus processing. I came across this preset called Backing Vocals Out of the Way, and it's just a brilliant preset for backing vocals and very intuitive to start tweaking. It's just a very good tool in my day-to-day sessions where I have to get backing vocals to sound good pretty quickly. What's interesting about it is there seems to be like a target curve of some kind, so it's very responsive and kind of helps you out, which in co-writing sessions is a great tool because you don't have that much time to start tweaking this and that. Maybe after the session, I would start tweaking different parameters more, but in a co-writing session, definitely, it speeds up the process. There's actually a great preset for acoustic guitar, which is take boxiness out of a guitar, which enables you to record an acoustic guitar on a very close range, which usually can boost the boxiness a lot. But then you get the intimacy of a very close range acoustic guitar and you slap that preset on there and it just takes away the boxiness. Today we're looking at a track called Lost that I co-produced and mixed by an artist called Joe from Avex Music Japan. For me, with this specific track, instead of compromising with the tones and sounds, I chose to rather have things duck and move away from each other using Soothe. That way I got it to sound just more full and lively. So for example, on my bass bus, I have a Soothe that is ducking the drum bus on the low end here, which sounds like this. So as you can see, it's reacting to the kick and a little bit of the snare. On top of that, I do have an LFO tool ducking the kick and just an Ableton compressor ducking the snare. But yeah, so on top of having the LFO tool duck to the kick, I really wanted to make sure that there's no low end overlapping which will allow me to get the loudness that I want. So that is why I put the Soothe here to duck out the low end. And I have it on as fast as possible on both attack and release. Hard mode, and I kind of just scope where I want it to be. And depending on the song, I might change the depth. On this one, I really wanted it to duck almost as much as possible, a lot. So I set it to 13. So much cleaner. On the lead synth group here, we have a Bloom. Wow, that's a surprising preset, vocal parallel enhancer. Don't know, seems like I was just scrolling through presets and this one sounded great. And bypass. Wow. This is the lead synth of the track, so I wanted it to be very much in your face and have a lot of clarity. A lot of the times when that's something I'm looking for, I go to Bloom because the way it handles the top end is very soothing. And that's probably why a Bloom is on there. Let's see what else is on there. A high boost on a Pultec and a little EQ. So how I usually use Bloom, so usually I go to a preset and see if I like the direction it's taking me to. And then I hit this squash calibration and wet trim. And see if that's doing good things. And then I kind of fine adjust from there. But these two are the first things that I kind of press on a preset to see what it kind of suggests. There seems to be a Soothe on this synth track here. Taming a bit of harshness and that kind of fluty frequency range. Yeah. Mixed with an octave higher. Let's see what this Soothe is doing. Taming harshness. And both of them together. I actually think the default preset on Soothe is very easy to work with. So I actually quite rarely go to different presets because I think it's just very easy to, let's say, open up a Soothe here and then just kind of hit Alt and start scoping out. I feel like this way of working is very intuitive for me. After that, I would check which one of these sound better for me. A lot of time with harshness, I tend to go fast attack because I want it to react immediately. Release is kind of based on whichever track I'm working with. So there's no like setting for me over there. I usually reach out to the mix knob when I'm doing bus processing. On separate tracks, I kind of rarely find myself using that because instead of touching the mix, I'll just take down depth. It's just how I work. Then let's see what we have here. So here I've cut away a bit of the transients. Delta. Probably because it was arguing with a lot of the drums. So I kind of wanted that to stay away from that transient information war. And all together. down to here. You can see I've landed on the preset called upright piano. And without, just feels like a good firm handshake. Also with a track like this, it's most likely going to be played in loud environments, festivals, clubs. By having things duck and move away from each other, you can have it sound the way you want it without compromising any information. Next up, we have a glitchy synth. This is actually one of my favorite presets on Bloom, called Wide Synth. And it's an MS split here. It just puts the synth in a very good place in the stereo image. And it takes it away from the most important information that's in the middle. And bypass. Again, it gives very good clarity. Next up, we have the whole vocal bus, which has a Soothe. Yep. Yeah, that area there is really harsh without this. Again, just a lot easier on your ears in a loud environment where this might be played through a big PA system. And there's this separate vocal track. I'm so lost. Where do we go wrong? Seems to be like a parallel squashed vocal. I'm so lost. If I'm not mistaken, this is just the default preset untouched. The output is set to -1 decibel. I'm so lost. I'm so lost. Yeah. I'm so lost. Smacked this on and just thought, that's it. Doesn't need anything else. Tambourine track. It seems to be ducking the hi-hat track. Without. So they're both performing at pretty similar frequencies, or they're clashing around 8K. So I wanted them to sort of communicate with each other without compromising the sound of the tambourine. Yep. And on this FX track, I have a Spiff cutting out some transients. Without. So you can hear that snap, and I kind of didn't want that. And instead of doing a fade in, I just took away the snap on Spiff. Yes, definitely the rhythm track is the basis of this whole mix, and I have a lot of things ducking whatever the drums are doing. So this mixing process started with drums only, and then I started bringing in the bass, making sure they don't clash, and then bringing in the synths and all the harmonic instruments to make sure they have their own room. Luckily, the only vocal part in the song is at a very quiet part where there's not a lot of synths going on, so I didn't have to have them compete. It's a very rhythm-driven hyper track. Okay, thanks for watching. The track we had here today was Lost by Joe. Make sure to check it out on Spotify and all other platforms. I'd like to thank Oak Sound for such great plugins and this opportunity to show what I'm doing here.